into the BFR Podcast presented by Sports Mockery. My name is Dave. I'm joined by my co-host, Ficky. You can follow me on Twitter at Dave_BFR. You can follow Ficky, as always, on It's Ficky Baby. And we have a new face here. We're starting a little bit early, Robert Schmitz. He's going to be here in a minute. But we have Nick, who is a co-host with Rob for the Bear With Us podcast. So, Nick, first of all, it's a pleasure. First of all, where can we find you on Twitter? And then just tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Yeah, I'm at _Nick Whalen on Twitter, which honestly, I do a lot of fantasy football writing. And there is another Nick Whalen in the fantasy space. He actually lived in Wisconsin for a while, so it's kind of a little crazy. So make sure it's the right one. I have the underscore. He's like Nick Whalen, and the L is like a 1. So you got to kind of, figure it out a little bit. But yeah, I've been Bears fan in Wisconsin my whole life, so that's pretty rough. You got to be pretty dedicated for that one. And I write now at Football Guys for fantasy. I've been there for 2 years, but I've been writing for, I don't know, over a decade in fantasy stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna need your help. That's for sure.
Oh, well, I guess also how I got into football and stuff is I was a college coach and high school coach for 14 years now. That was kind of my first life. And then I've just kind of bled that over into talking about prospects and Bears football, and it's been fun with everybody.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Did you enjoy that? Like, what was the pros and cons of that? Like, 'cause that seems a crazy life.
Yeah, well, it is, because you bounce around everywhere. I mean, I've lived in Kentucky and Montana, and a few places. It's fun because it's football, and you get to meet some some high-end people, and just interviews and clinics and stuff. The bad part is if you win, you move, and if you lose, you move. Like, that's the worst part. It's like you have to bounce around. I'm like, man, this doesn't actually seem as fun as it kind of was. Yeah, I kind of got out of it. I wanted to have a good family life, and yeah, so now here we are.
That's awesome.
Well, so fantasy, because Ficky, we were talking early off the show before we started. Ficky's 4-10 on most of his fantasy leagues. So
why we gotta let people know? That's my thing.
Yeah,
I just said I needed his help. That was.
I mean, that's true. That's what I'm saying. So, first of all, fantasy, Nick, can you give us what are some, like, I know before we talk Bears, because we're about to, but just give us some of like your best tips fantasy wise, especially for this guy to my left, Ficky. But yeah, just some fantasy tips, and then what kind of. I know fantasy is a little bit different, but what like kind of draws you to it, especially as far as like a writing perspective, and being in that space for so long.
Mm-hmm. So I think the biggest tip is knowing your format and your league. I actually will map out every score for the past couple of years. Like if your league's 12 team, okay, the top 12 quarterbacks, and then the next 12, et cetera. So you kind of can see the point differentials, and then you see what the closest in terms of what your strategy should be. And like, hey, I need to invest in receivers early, which would be my recommendation, by the way. And then I can wait on quarterbacks. So like, that's one thing that you always advise is going against the grain will probably net you more profits in your leagues than, hold on, everyone else is getting their tight end, I should get my tight end. Just stay true to what you do, because there's so many, as you guys have heard or seen this year, injuries and bye weeks and things like that. So having that good core of players, I think that are receiver based, and I would say difference makers like a tight end, like a Kelsey or Andrews, I know he got hurt, will help you a lot more, I think, than having stronger quarterbacks or running back.
Injuries are tough this year.
Yeah, I know.
Like we'll talk about here with the Browns too, but it seems like everybody is just great players are getting knocked out.
Their list of injuries is ridiculous. But actually, a cool story, Dave, to bring it actually into the Bears of why I started writing is, so I have this, like, I don't know, film background with prospects. And then one of my first fantasy leagues, this would have been, man, I'm not going to get the year right. I think it was 2008. I had a couple of picks to draft some college players come to the NFL, and it was a big running back year. That was the Jonathan Stewart, Darren McFadden, Chris Johnson, Felix Jones, like that class. But I passed on Chris Johnson, Felix Jones, because I mean, they were first round picks, to get our boy Matt Forte, because I was like, dude, I just love his game and his pass catching, etc. And then I had passed on all those guys again to get Jamal Charles. So I picked Forte and Charles, who were the better picks over these other ones. And everyone after that were like, hey, what did you see? And I'm like, maybe I should write about this. So that kind of actually spurred the whole thing.
Okay.
Cool. Those are 2 home runs.
It was, I mean, I have a lot of bad stories too, so I'm not going to act like I'm like perfect here, but that's a good story.
More hits than misses, we hope.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, Nick, first of all, awesome. But now we want to get to the Bears. So obviously Rob is going to join us here in a moment. Before we kind of get into some questions I had prepped for both of you, I want to start with this article from Yahoo Sports that's kind of been circulating throughout just Bears Twitter, Bears socials on most platforms. And it was a Yahoo post about GMs, NFL GMs. It was all anonymous in regards to the best route for the Bears regarding Justin Fields or maybe drafting a quarterback, and then also what the compensation might be if they were to trade Justin. So one quote that I found very, very interesting this is from an AFC general manager. And again, we don't know exactly your stance on what the route maybe the Bears should go. And so before I ask you that question, this is what the AFC GM said. He said, it would be a clear-cut decision to draft Caleb for me, which is Caleb Williams. The fact that they're in year 3 and they don't want to exercise the 5th-year option tells me what I need to know. I just don't think Fields can win consistently as a passer, even though he is gifted physically. Now, Justin, obviously, there is a huge controversy about Justin, and there's a lot of people are very one side or the other in regards to perhaps building around him, trading back again like they did last year. So where do you stand on Justin this year? I know we have 4 big games left, but say the season ended here, which route would you go and why? If you were, say you were GM of Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing that shocks me with that is how does this person know they're not going to pick up the 5th-year option? I thought that was the most peculiar part of that article. I'm like, it's tight to the vest as Poles keeps. I was like, I don't know that I believe that. I have to ask you this, Dave. So you asked me that question. I have to ask you this, though. What is the trade package offer that I would get for the 101? Because that's going to affect it for me.
So let me go ahead and go through these. So they polled, let me see here.
7, right?
7 GMs. Okay. 7 GMs, some on the AFC, some NFC. So GM number 1, this is the best package that he sent out there. He said a 2nd round and 4th round pick pending a good finish to the season. GM number 2 said a 2nd round pick pending a strong finish to the season. So that 4th round pick that the first GM that's out there. So he's saying just a flat out 2nd round pick pending a strong finish. GM number 3, he said a 3rd round pick plus another late round pick that could escalate 1 round based on performance. GM number 4 said 1 3rd round pick in 2024, 1 4th round pick in the 2025 draft. GM 5, he went similar, a 3rd round pick or a 2nd round draft pick for Fields, plus a late round pick from the Bears. GM 6 and 7 had the exact same proposal. It was a 3rd round pick pending the finish of the season. So the best one was like a 2nd round and a 4th round pick. Yeah. And that's if he finished strong. The worst was a 3rd round pick, again, pending the finish. So for me, you're getting maybe a 2nd round pick, maybe a 1st if he goes, like maybe crazy, nuclear at the end of the season. But why would you want to trade that if you went that bizarre? So for me, a 2nd round pick, 3rd round pick, any of those packages, would they even interest you?
So my decision, I think, is based more on the package I would get for the 101, because that has to get baked into this whole thing. It's not, is Drake May or Caleb Williams, and we'll probably talk about both, are they better than Justin Fields? Are they going to be slightly better, significantly better, the same, worse? I mean, people aren't even considering that they could be worse. Like, we have Bryce Young here, or you got Baker Mayfield, or we've got Trey Lance, Carson Wentz. Like, we have lots of guys that haven't been amazing, because I think a lot of times people just have this thought of like, well, you draft him, he's going to be Patrick Mahomes. Obviously. I'm like, well, there's a lot in between there. To me, I think having those, let's say it's 3 first-round picks for trading down, I think it's going to be something like that. If you get something like that, I think in a package back, that really changes the conversation, because, with Chicago, let's say that's another receiver, another edge, another whatever it could be. I think that can change the conversation. So right now, where I would be is I would stay with Fields and I would trade down for massive package and continue to build this team, because we're seeing around the NFL, Justin Herbert's elite and that team isn't making it. We're seeing Brock Purdy getting lifted by the team around him. The Eagles getting lifted by the team around him. Detroit, Goff's getting lifted by the team around him. I think doing that helps. And also, quarterbacks are getting hurt. And so if your quarterback gets hurt, what do you lean on? The team around you. So I would rather build up the team than pray that you get a Patrick Mahomes and he carries, which honestly, he's struggling with that right now.
Spot on.
Honestly, I love that answer. I guess someone decided to join us today. It looks like we have Robert Schmitz. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Oh gosh, man, this dealer took forever to get the paperwork done. But anyways, so are we talking Fields and the number 1 overall pick?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
we were talking about this article on Yahoo Sports. I'm not sure if you're able to see it. I know you. First of all, Rob
Charles
is
Robinson
car
one,
shopping.
right?
So, what do you say?
The Charles Robinson one, right? With the
Yes,
17
exactly.
and all that.
Yep.
I
Yep.
mean,
So-
come on, it's everywhere right now. How do you not see that?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Rob? Like, first of all, I know we just asked kind of Nick where he stands as far as drafting a quarterback or perhaps building around Fields. So, what is your stance on that? We're gonna just bring you right in and fire away. So,
Absolutely. So here's the problem, right? Justin Fields is an unorthodox quarterback, and we're okay with this. I mean, Justin Fields is also a super athlete, right? There are so many things where Justin Fields is top 3, top 2 when it comes to what he can do with his lower half. It is something else, right? But this is a league that gives chance after chance after chance to these white bread pocket passers and doesn't really value doing things differently. And so the idea that the league might be lower on Fields than say we are, I can't say I'm shocked, but also this is a public article. They don't really have a lot of incentive to be high on Justin Fields. So if you wanted to throw it out and say, all right, like maybe they're trying to set the price low. Yeah, I mean, I actually might think that has some credence if you want to take it with a grain of salt. Now, when it comes to like, what do you do at number 1, right? I think we are somehow managing to overcomplicate this, right? Because every time we talk about the rookie quarterback, we make it out like the Bears are this awful team with nothing going for them, right? And if that was the case, I would agree. That's why trading down last year was such a good idea, right? Like the Patriots are gonna screw Drake May if that's where Drake May goes, or they take Caleb Williams or anything else. But you added DJ Moore, you added Darnell Wright, Braxton Jones is showing you something. The number 76, whose name the moment I say it, he will combust and immediately lost.
Then don't say it, please. Please don't say it.
He's balling, guys.
Yeah,
and so I can't help but look at this. And then there's another guy, a lightning rod, Cole Kmet. Has gotten so much hate out there, and the guy is coming along. We're seeing receiving chops from Kmet that we just didn't see. So if you decide, look at the difference between, I know everybody likes to use Brock Purdy. Nick, I'm playing off of what you're saying as the example where Brock Purdy is why you don't take a quarterback high. So if you think about the difference between how dangerous the 49ers were with Trey Lance versus the difference between how dangerous they are with Brock Purdy, it's not as simple as Caleb Williams is Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. You get it. This is hard. Scouting quarterbacks is not easy. Yep. But when you do plop a quarterback in with weapons around him, a distributor that can make an extra play or two can give you a huge boost. And suddenly, I mean, what we should all be pursuing, whether you're pro Justin, whether you're anti Justin, is a top 5 offense by 2025, in my opinion. As much as I care about 2024, because let's be real, like maybe in a perfect world, your rookie quarterback is as good as Justin Fields would have been in 2024, but that's probably not happening. But the goal is by 2025 and 2026, the Bears have a top 5 offense, right? I don't think anything less should be what we are hoping for. And whatever decision Ryan Poles wants to make right now, he's winning enough of these decisions that I'm just going to turn the keys over to him and be like, bro, what you want? Like, you want a new quarterback? I'll ride with it. You don't want a new quarterback? I'll ride with it. Like, I've got my preference. I'm sure you can pick up what my preference is, but I'm turning the keys over and saying at the end of the day, like, maybe it's a new coach. Probably it's Ryan Poles. Your call. And whatever you want to do, I'll work with.
Yeah, I'm with that as well. Like, preference, I think both me and Dave is like build around him, obviously. But, I also understand the other side of the coin here with that number 1 pick. First of all, we haven't been, besides last year, I don't think the Bears ever had a number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, right? So the fact that you are now you passed on it last year, okay with it, makes sense. Back, to have it again, you know what I mean? It's like with this level of, I guess you could say, prospects, I can understand where it's like, hey, Ryan Poles has done his work. He's had way more hits than misses. I'm going to rock with it. But I mean, if you want to talk about value, like you said, flipping that, we saw what he got last year, right? 9-1, DJ Moore, and then the picks, right? What you could get for Caleb Williams, maybe you don't even have to go back as far back as 9. You can get something for 2, something for 4, something for 5, and still get something similar in that haul back, which sets you up again for the following years. And then the last portion, which I think is the most important, is this is a risk. The people, I love it. We come on here and talk about like, oh, what we think of these people. The people who are paid as to evaluate prospects miss on these top guys all the time, especially with quarterback, like all the time. Trevor Lawrence, he's had his good, had his bad, but like he was supposed to be the next coming of Jesus, right? Has not been the case. So there's all that, like basically the decision is like versus what you have. A quarterback that's got his flaws, gotten kind of progressively better, still has like some big question marks, right? Versus here's a guy whose ceiling looks crazy, could be the next guy, or he's a Ryan Leaf. You know what I mean? And so I don't know. It's just such an interesting question that you have to answer. I feel bad for Ryan Poles. Good luck.
I don't feel bad for him at all. It's all his doing, to be honest, too. Like the fact that he was smart enough to trade with Carolina, and in my opinion, I really think it was strategic when he kind of did trade last year because, as far as the Panthers go, you kind of knew if they were to get a rookie quarterback, then you're taking DJ Moore from them. It was methodical. It was smart. So for me, Rob, another question here with that article was the trade value that they might get back for Justin. So before we kind of hop into other topics, the highest one is around a 2nd and then maybe a 3rd round pick as well. First of all, if you were trading Justin just right now, I know these next 4 games could very well either bring that value up even more. It may decrease a little bit. For me, where he stands right now, with a 2nd and 3rd round pick, would you be, first of all, say they make the deal, and then how would you feel? Would you be ecstatic? I know you want to keep Fields, but like as far as getting that capital back for the next quarterback, is that sufficient for you?
I get a 2nd and a 3rd. I'll take it. I mean, Right now, where we stand right now, we're coming off a game that Nick and I just moaned about on our latest podcast in a good way. We're exciting. It's fun. You should listen to it. But we talk about how Justin Fields passed up on 4 or 5 opportunities downfield that could have been monster chunk plays. And we know he can make the throw. The frustrating piece about Fields' game is, we know you can. Why aren't you? Because it's becoming a consistent issue. But beyond that, I think I would be okay with it. I also think I've seen this league draft Tim Tebow in the 1st round. I've seen them draft Johnny Manziel in the 1st round. Like, if in these next 4 games Fields does nearly anything to get people excited, euphoria could take over. And whatever you thought was market rate might just not matter, because the moment the Pittsburgh Steelers, Nick, decide this is our guy, they're going to pay this is our guy price, just because they're going to make sure there's no discussion. Everybody's seen Succession here. I know it's a bit of a joke when they say it, but like, it's a conversation ending offer when it comes to a your guy quarterback. And especially because Fields has that 2nd-year option. I'm not telling anybody you should expect a 1st round pick. I'm saying that if the market rate becomes a 2nd and a 4, nothing's out of the question if a team gets really amped up about it. And Ficky, I want to push back on something, just something you said, one thing, because I think there are so many Bears fans that are taking this quarterback quandary and they are turning it into, oh, I don't envy Ryan Poles. What a tough decision. Oh, no. There are going to be minimum 8 to 9 fan bases that would probably amputate a limb to be in the position the Bears are in.
That's true.
That's true. Most of these teams don't have a choice. The people who don't like Justin Fields, well, you better talk yourself into him. The people that do like Fields, he better be everything you thought he was, because either you're getting like 5 Christmases worth of presents under your tree because you traded away from number 1, or you're getting somebody that your GM thinks is the real deal out of everybody in the draft. There's no, oh no, actually we wanted this guy more than the guy who went number 1, right? There's no convincing. You don't have to make the like, well, you know, Kyle Shanahan really wanted Trey Lance or any of that stuff. You get Ryan Poles' personal choice. It might be Drake May. It might be Jaden Daniels for all we know. It probably won't be, because if you ask me, if he loved Jalen Daniels, he's going to love Justin Fields, right? But it's an interesting way to go about this, because like we just saw the chatter say, Ryan Leaf was a generational talent. Absolutely. But at the same time, just because Fields is playing solid ball right now in year 3 doesn't mean that there's not some tendency on his film that defensive coordinators haven't caught on to, that they're about to shut the faucet off. Guys, we don't know. And sticking with either, there is no safe option. Let's put it that way.
I mean, I think
Both impart risk.
I think I've seen in my lifetime 15 generational quarterbacks come through the draft. How about you guys?
A shit ton. It seems like it's almost every year.
Wow.
And then you're like 3 years.
None
3 years
through
later,
Chicago
you're like,
except for Mitch
Put the
Trubisky.
word away.
oh my gosh. I'm like, it's not generational then if every year there's someone, right?
Or
No,
how old am I? I'm thousands of years old, I guess. Maybe that's what it is.
You remember games from 2001 that nobody else does, Nick.
Yeah, he brought that up in the pre-show. I remember it, the back-to-back Mike Brown interceptions. The one was in overtime, but I didn't remember who made that Hail Mary catch. There was no way I was pulling
That's a good question.
out of my back pocket.
So I want to bring this up as well, Rob, because you make a good point. Because Poles, I mean, it is a great position to be in. This was something that another GM talked about in regards to Fields. So another NFC general manager pointed out kind of the psychological aspect of Ryan Poles and where he is right now. So first, he hasn't drafted his own quarterback. Fields was a selection by Ryan Pace, the previous regime. He said nobody wants to be judged or fired because they didn't make the previous guy's draft picks work, especially quarterback and head coach. If it's not working or it's lagging, you should get an opportunity at changing it your own way. Quarterbacks and head coaches are so much of your culture, so it's kind of hard when you don't put those pieces in place and you're taking the hits anyway, or the criticism or feedback or the progress not being there. So I think that's a real thing. And there was a hug with Poles and Fields after their win, I think against maybe Minnesota, where, kind of people like, oh yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be here. And, if only it was that easy. But for me, I really think Ryan Poles really has, I know it's not a fun position to be in, but like, these are real decisions that are going to shape not just the Bears, but really his legacy as GM. Because if he trades the number 1 pick here, again, first of all, that's 2 years in a row. I don't even think that's ever been done. That would be a first. But the haul would be there, and he wants to build through the draft. So he would get a lot of pieces. You kind of said it would be like getting a bunch of Christmas presents under his tree. But for me, the idea to get your own guy in there, whether it's Caleb Williams or Drake May or somebody else, I think that's pretty enticing. So for me, Rob, this is for you and Nick. Where do you lean right now? If you were Ryan Poles and you kind of insight, what do you think he's thinking as far as the direction he's going to go? I'll start with you, Rob.
What does Rob think? Rob is pretty obsessed with Caleb Williams' film.
Okay.
I can't go out to dinner with the guy. We saw a comment just a minute ago about how somebody doesn't trust Caleb Williams' attitude. I'm going to have to let Ryan sort that one. All I get is the tape. All I'll go off of is the tape. And he really is that special a passer. That much I can tell you. But what I would also say, because Dave, here's the hard part. Okay, so pop quiz. How many years was Ryan Pace the GM of the Chicago Bears?
8. Was it
8?
7? 8?
8
Okay.
years. How did he pull it off? How did he pull it off? Because if you think about the timeline, he waited as long as was realistic. He waited until year 3 to draft a quarterback. Then he got 4 more years of that quarterback's tenure. And then only until he finally picked another one was he on the hot seat enough to get fired. And I say this because if you stick with Fields and it doesn't work, you could be gone as early as the end of the 2024 season, realistically the 2025 season. If you draft Caleb, you are almost assuredly extended through 2026 at a minimum. And if he's any good at all, you get an extension the first year he throws for 4,000 yards. And Caleb's a passer enough, he might. No, I'm saying like, y'all, that's not the trophy it used to be. Like, this is the NFL. 11 to 14 quarterbacks throw for 4,000 yards every single year, right? But he throws for 4,000 yards. You're getting extended probably through 2027, 2028. And remember, those are guaranteed contracts in the eyes of these guys. And none of this that I just said is me trying to argue that picking Caleb automatically makes you better, or Nick, that it's the right decision. But it might be the right decision for Ryan Poles' job. And that I do wonder, because Ryan Pace put his job above everything else. And it worked. Dude got 8 years as the GM of a franchise. So, Dave, I got to tell you, I would be worried if I was a fan of Fields, because Ryan Poles is going to have a lot of external pressure that I think pushes him towards taking that number one overall quarterback, even if he picks Drake May, even if he doesn't pick Caleb in this case, just because if you trade down, you have to be right. You have to be really right. And even worse, Nick, let me throw this question at you as we segue. Let's say the Bears are undisputably a good team. They trade down, they stick with Fields, whether Fields works or not. They make the playoffs for the next 5 years. They win 2 playoff games. Like, they are in that conversation. But Caleb Williams was an MVP in year 3. Are you fired anyways?
I don't think so. Because I don't think it matters, because he wants to take the North and never give it back. Like, to me, I don't care about Ryan Pace. I care about Ryan Poles. And if you guys are running a team, think of your jobs right now. Are you making decisions right now so I can have a job for 5 more years? Or you're like, hey, I want to swing and hit a home run, and I want to I want to get the championship. And whichever path he thinks, I think he's going to take. I don't think it's going to be, I care about my job, because honestly, he's made a bunch of money. He's not going to be, looking for table scraps and, peddling for money as we all drive at the stoplights and everywhere we go now. Like, he's going to be fine. To me, it comes down to, I think, how you want a team build. And we've talked about this, but also when I watched the tape, Fields did have some turndowns, but we've seen progress in him as a passer. And we've all talked about this, and Packer fans will push back and be like, well, that's excuse, boom, 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 boom. But right now, what do we hear for Patrick Mahomes? Well, he doesn't have a receiver, and he doesn't have Kelsey's a step slow. It's like, whoa, last year we didn't get that from you guys. What happened the year before with Fields? Like, and then right now, when Chicago's finally healthy, we look pretty darn good. And so, to me, when I watch Caleb Williams, I watch Drake May, I watch Justin Fields, all in all 22 tape, which I do have, by the way, Rob, now. And I watch some of that.
There you go.
They're all very different. Caleb Williams, y'all, like, I know people want to say Mahomes. He doesn't have Mahomes' arm. He doesn't have the arm strength. He kind of reminds me almost like of Russell Wilson, because he's very like lateral, crazy, Gumby, flexible, like just crazy. You guys remember this. He's like an and one guy playing quarterback. Like, he's just, you never know where he's going to be. He'll make some crazy good plays, though. He'll take some bad sacks. But that's what he is. But I don't think he has the cannon. Then you go to Drake May, I think has a better arm. He's a little bit more of like a linear athlete. I think he's faster, but I think he's off balance sometimes. I don't think he reads the field probably as better as Caleb or as creative. But I think there's also a offense for him. And then you have this Fields, who I think is almost better off script than anybody in creative. But the Madden literally player, you're like, 6'2", 230, you run a 4.3 and you have a crazy strong arm. Like, yeah, that's the guy I want. So I think it depends way more on what offense they want going forward. Can you build a coordinator that will play to his strengths? And that's not Luke Getsy.
Let's use positive comps for all 3 guys, because I think that's the only thing that's fair. Okay. When I watch Caleb Williams, I see a guy who is not the same as, but similar to Aaron Rodgers. When you watch Drake May, you see a guy who's not the same as, but similar to Justin Herbert. And then with Justin Fields, you could think of it as a blend of Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, right? So the different direction you want to take this team is all going to come back to the eye of what they think this team is, right? But I feel like that's all stuff that's going to get settled over the next 4 weeks. Can we beat the Browns?
They don't have a
Can
choice.
we win 6 games in a row? Like, there are pieces to this, I think we all agree, where if Justin comes out and has another 120-yard passing game, like, the conversation's probably over.
You know what?
Yeah.
I have a hot take. I actually think the decision's already been made. I think they have enough evidence, right? They have 3 years. I think Poles has come out and talked about like it's when we evaluate is what he's done in his career, right? I think the decision has already been made, and we're just over here talking about. Obviously, we'll never find that out, but I think because like if you think about it realistically, right? You mentioned it, Rob. Tendencies, right? We know his tendencies. We know what his flaws are. There's nothing in the next 4 games, personally, right? Obviously, you want to see him perform well, but it's like if I'm deciding whether I keep a guy based off 4 games, like I don't know how that's just such a low sample of data for you to have high confidence in, right? So I get it, but if you're already kind of like this, right, in the middle, going back and forth, and you need 4 games to determine it, then you probably already know your decision is to move on. You know what I mean? So
let's say
I don't know, but that's kind of my hot take.
Fick, let's say that we got Ryan Poles on this podcast right now, right? And then we dosed him with some truth serum.
Hold on. Let me call him. Hold on.
Give him a call. What do you think of
it might be.
If Ryan Poles shot straight with us, what do you think, Ficky? And I want you to answer this with a real number. This isn't rhetorical. What do you think of the chances that Ryan Poles would tell you the only thing that stops me from making a decision outright is that Carolina might go on a 4-game winning streak, and I'm waiting for this thing to settle itself?
Oh, no. Okay, so if we don't have this first overall pick, I guarantee – okay, not just first. If we have the second or first, okay? Basically, if we didn't have the option to pick either Drake May or Caleb Williams, I think he sticks with Fields. I don't think he trades up for a risk, for questions you don't have. You stay out where you're at and build around him. That's the biggest problem, is that you have such this valuable piece in this first round pick, number 1 overall. So to answer your question, a number, are you saying like they do go on a 4-game winning streak?
What do you think of the chances that Ryan Poles would tell you that any uncertainty regarding his decision is as simple as Carolina has not, like the pick is not solidified yet? Like,
I think it is. Yeah, I mean, just
you might.
I think, yeah. So I know technically it is, and technically we have a chance for the playoffs.
I think it's like a 99% chance that the Bears get the number 1 overall pick.
We're going to the playoffs. We're beating the Lions as the 6th seed. What are you talking about? Get out of here.
I think it's interesting. I like both. I like Ficky. I think that's interesting that the decision is perhaps already made, and that might be possible.
Wait a second.
However,
am I on board with that, or do we all feel that it's?
I don't feel that way.
Still to be decided.
Nick.
No, I don't either. I brought up something, a different like caveat to this on our pod last night. I'll bring it up here.
And first of all, what your guys' pod? We've talked about it early in the show, but Rob, your guys, it's Bear With Us. It's on Rob's channel, and you guys have been doing it for quite a while now as far as the season. So first of all, we'll have the link in the description. Check it out. It's an amazing podcast. I know there's a lot of Bears podcasts out there, not just ours, but Rob, Nick do a great job. So first of all, check that out.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. You guys know.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, Dave. I made this cop because we know that Justin Fields isn't Zach Wilson, right? We're not saying like he's like terrible, and that's what makes this actually a conversation, right? Or Mac Jones, whomever.
He's a starter.
And this it's a similar conversation to what we have with Braxton Jones right now. You're like, ooh, he's playing okay. Maybe we don't need to spend that other first on Joe Alt, other tackle, etc. And now you're like, okay, Tyreek Stevenson is making some strides. Maybe we don't need to replace him at corner. This like now that's happening. And to me, it's all like we're all figuring out values. It's like, okay, how much better could this rookie quarterback be than Fields? How much better could this tackle be than Braxton Jones? This is a good problem, no matter what the answer is, because the floor of Chicago's team right now, the young guys, they're all like, oh, Brisker, 17 tackles. Oh, I'm seeing these young D tackles making plays. Like everything is good in Chicago right now. And I love Justin Fields, but I trust Ryan Poles. So whatever we do, I'm okay with. But Chicago is going in the right direction.
And I really think we have to, Nick, because I mean, Caleb Williams is a strange dude. Strange's not always bad. Aaron Rodgers is a strange dude, and I think if we got, we would all rather, or like we would love to have him as a young version of his quarterback, if that's what actually happens. But like Nick, I can't help thinking that somehow this is going to come down to some draft day-esque Bo Callahan, like, does everybody go to his birthday party kind of thing? Like, it is halfway dumbtown that I'm suggesting this, but I really can't help but think that, like, that Ryan Poles is going to be sitting at a dinner with Caleb Williams and his agent, and he's going to have some GM blowing up his phone with some insane trade offer, and the vibe he gets from Caleb is going to swing the decision one way or another.
Well,
and that's stuff we'll never see on tape.
Well, here's a question, okay? So if you guys are, because it seems like we're split, like two of you are Caleb, and me and Dave are still like, we'll see, right? Is there a trade package?
No, I'm more of a we'll see.
Okay.
I'm okay
right.
with either.
Well,
I see both sides.
Either way, even if people are all Caleb and they're like, I don't know about Fields, is there a trade package that's like ridiculous? You'd be like, okay, I have to stick with Fields because that trade package is so much that we can't say no.
I feel like you have to, right? I mean, I guess you have to weigh it though. The once in a lifetime opportunity for generational QB versus the once in a lifetime.
It all
opportunity
depends.
For the biggest haul.
It all depends. History. Look at Bryce Young right now and how lopsided this deal is, right? Because it's like, you can even look at it right now. You don't have to wait a couple years because Bryce Young, sure, he could be good, but it's like he's not going to be generational. It's just not going to happen. Carolina is a mess. It's similar to Chicago, I would almost say last year with that roster they have. Might even be worse in Carolina right now. So for me, it's like, if Caleb Williams becomes Aaron Rodgers, right, Hall of Fame quarterback, the trade back, if you get 3 first, whatever it might be, it just might not look nearly as good if one of them flops. So say Drake May and Caleb Williams are both very good, average quarterbacks, then yeah, the trade back's going to look great because you're going to get picks. But if one of them is generational, like we talk about, like that tag that we throw out there, I know, but if one of them, it's going to be like, well, shit. It's similar to like CJ Stroud almost, even though that was that's different because no one really knew that he was going to come out the gate this hot, this good right away.
But that's the
thing.
You
can't really judge.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You kind of know with Fields, you know what you can do. But I wanted to get here. If he wins out, because one thing that has been a roadblock for him is winning, and it's not necessarily all on him, but it's a big part of, you see his record, and wins are not a QB stat. But if he goes on this run here, he beats Cleveland, exercises some demons. That's a big win against a very good defense. I know there's a lot of players out right now, but if you beat Cleveland in Cleveland and you do it in a way where it's not 120, 150 yards passing, but say 250, another 50 on the ground, 2-3 touchdowns again, and you just start consistently stacking these games, then you go and beat Atlanta, and you get into the Lambeau where you beat the Packers too. And they're all very good games. That's where I think that, sure, he may have a decision right now, but if he goes on this run and he's a reason why the Bears are winning, and he's doing it in a very good, still running the ball, of course, but also passing. And sure, you're going to need some help to get in. But if you go out and win 6 games in a row, you finish 9-8, I don't think there's a possibility where you could be like, yeah, let me just blow up this locker room. You looked at Brisker, you look at how these guys, TJ Edwards, talk about Fields, and you go on that run. I think that would be a big mistake. If I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think that's one way where it can kind of teeter back to be like, oh no, we're going to trade this away. He's showing us that he can win, and we're seeing those steps. So
that's another thing, Dave. And I was going to ask Robin, Nick this. If the team is so much behind this guy, I think TJ Edwards came out again unprovoked and was like, yeah, Fields, you watched him in OTAs. I'm not surprised he's here now, right? All these players back him up. That we've seen the opposite of that with Mitch. That was not the case, right? So do you take something that is at least working in the locker room, working enough on the field, and risk that to then now you bring in a new guy the fan base probably won't enjoy right off just because of Fields being gone, right? And then also bringing the personality doesn't necessarily mesh great with Chicago. I don't have anything against it, but the fan base might have something against it. You're stirring a lot of things into a pot, into a team, as Nick said, is progressively going up, right? So is it even worth the risk to bring in someone like Caleb to disrupt something like that? Or does it not fucking matter because he's going to win you games? And I'll start with Rob first because you're the big Caleb guy here.
Vic, I got 2 examples for you, right? And Nick loves past Bears history examples, but I got an old example for both of these, right? 1, San Francisco 49ers, Jim Harbaugh. They got a winning Alex Smith who's been under fire for forever, right? And in the middle of the season, in the middle of a bunch of winning, they make the decision to bench Alex Smith for Colin Kaepernick, and they don't look back en route to a Super Bowl. And they lose the Super Bowl, which sucks.
Still.
But I think any of us would take a Super Bowl trip. Bears example. Thomas Jones is a free agent. Not quite a nobody, but somebody who's all heart and soul. The Bears make the decision to draft his replacement in Cedric Benson, who they give the majority of the carries to in Super Bowl. I don't remember what number it is, but the 2006 Super Bowl that we all grew up on.
Is that 41?
Might have been.
Yeah, and then Benson fumbled. Anyway.
Benson did.
Benson's
RIP too, but
Bears lose the game. We hate him for the rest of, well, we pretty much don't like him for a long time. And then obviously Benson passes, which is awful.
Yeah.
So we don't need to dig any further into that, but it's more to say, Ficky, that it sure seems as if it really is as simple as, okay, but is the other guy any good? And if he is, everybody seems to just forget about this. Nobody really cared that Alex Smith was upset when he turned his roster over to Patrick Mahomes either. Like, he got traded. And everybody said, get over it. And the cat went and won the MVP. On the other hand, if this doesn't work, guys, it will be burned in our brains forever if that's the direction they go. And honestly, that's probably true either way. Like, I think Fields is going to have Fields already has a lot of pressure on him. He'll have more pressure on him if the Bears trade down, give up that quarterback. And I mean, God forbid they have one good game. Like, Nick, you've seen it, because I know you've talked about this, Nick. The way Bears fans are about George Pickens, like, anytime he has one catch, you see
they go
dadgummit. How do we not Pickens? Like, they're going to do that. And so I can't help thinking that until this thing resolves itself, honestly, this is a fan base that's just going to be really tense.
Well,
they already were.
And the other part with this, Rob, too, to give you another scenario with this is you could, again, like, I feel like you have to make the decision. You don't have to make the decision this year. Like, let's think about it this way. You trade back, you get a bunch of firsts. Okay. Next year, you'd have 2 firsts. So if it doesn't work out and you have to pay Justin yet, then you could do it then. Like, you could do that, because to me, you talked about that 49er team. You talked about that Kansas City team. They were loaded. That's what made it didn't matter who was at quarterback, because you got Bolden and Frank Gore and, tight ends and O-line and, Justin Smith on defense. Like, you had a squad. Patrick Willis, you had a squad. It's like, I want the squad. And like, people talk about having that QB on a rookie contract. Man, let's get Marvin Harrison Jr. on that rookie contract. Let's get Brock Bowers on that rookie contract. Like, those are advantages too, y'all.
Yeah.
100%.
No.
So where are the Bears from the squad?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, say it again.
How many holes away are the Bears from the squad? This isn't 2022.
Yeah, we probably 2 on the D line. I'd say maybe 1 in the secondary, 1 on the offensive line.
Safety.
And 1 in the wide receiver core. So I'd probably say, what's that, 6?
That was 5 players. And if
5,
the Bears an extra first-round pick, and they do get a second-round pick back, and they have $100 million in cap space, I mean, Ficky, are you saying that's doable? Because I would think you could add
absolutely. Here's my thing to double down with you, Rob, is that I think the fastest way to being a contender is sticking with Fields, because you already have so many weapons, right, that are set here. Like, this isn't the Mitch team that he got drafted to, where it's like, man, we got to basically restart the whole roster. So if you can use those picks to fill in more of the 6 remaining, right, from the trade, right, you trade it back, you can probably fill those 6 quicker than having to use one of them on your quarterback.
I'm saying I think you could do it either way. If you use your.
Are you guys hearing?
Your
like
audio might be a little.
Rob, are you? Do you have your phone on something?
Is it different than it was?
I'm not sure. Oh wait,
it's
talk
going out
now,
just a little
Rob.
bit.
Hello.
There we go.
Better.
Okay,
Way
there we
better.
go.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I thought it was on my end. I was like, what?
Look, I like pushing back against the consensus either way, because I'm a big, both of these are 2 good options.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no losing here kind of attitude. What I'm more trying to get everybody to think about is that I think it's possible to build those dudes roster, the loaded Bears roster, either direction. I think that there's enough free agency money. I think there's enough picks for you to stack this roster together. And like Nick's saying, you have a better chance of creating the 21 dudes around the quarterback's roster if you keep Justin Fields. But it is possible to create the 21 dudes around the quarterback roster with the rookie quarterback, especially if you factor in the 2025 offseason, because the Bears don't have to trade their future first to get a quarterback. That is a new thing these days. You'd swear everybody has to. You know what I mean? Like, the team that wants Jaden Daniels is almost assuredly going to trade up to go get him. And if not, somebody's going to trade up to go get J.J. McCarthy because people be crazy out there, right?
Yeah. Well, they are.
I think it's interesting, too, if you trade that first overall pick, barring, some crazy, Panthers run like you talked about, Rob, it should be first overall. You should be able to get it if you wanted to, like you did last year with DJ Moore, get another young player that's a star. That we know what he can do in the league, whether that's it could be an edge, it could be really anywhere, and then you can get Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think for as far as content goes, podcasts, everything, it's going to be a fun off season. I know we can keep talking about it. It's exciting. And I think you talked about, Rob, earlier about there's so many fan bases that would love to be in this scenario. We talked with a Panthers fan, Matt, he's on the Stay Hot podcast over there. And he was like, no, you guys absolutely have it better. Like this is brutal. Being a Panthers fan, it just sucks. It's not fun.
Been there.
Bryce Young is interesting. It's great, but it's like everything around him is like we have no belief that we're going to be able to figure this out and also save him before he's ruined.
And Dave, I'm going to kick it to Nick on this because, Nick, we've talked about this before. Like, maybe there was this world where the Bears could have locked up number 1 and number 3 if they came out super duper flat or Justin Fields was awful or anything in between. But, like, Nick, the other part of this I love so much, this roster is on fire right now. Like, and if everybody's playing well, then either decision, the impact gets a little bit less. Because I've been a Bears fan for 15 years. And for some reason, it has been the Chicago Bears in 12 of those 15 years that have decided we're going to try to make the quarterback carry us. We're going to have Nick Foles carry us. We're going to have Andy Dalton carry us. We're going to have Mitch Trubisky carry us. We're going to have Jay Cutler. It was Cutler for like 6 years of my life. He's going to carry us. And one of the winningest quarterbacks in recent memory, because if memory serves, he went like 8-8. Maybe he did better. Nick, you're better with some of this. Was Kyle Orton, who might be the least talented of the bunch, because the Bears just put a team around him. And so what I love either way, amazing. What I love either way is that the Bears seem committed to building the team around the quarterback, regardless of what they do with this free pick at number 1, so to speak. Like,
and the other part of this too, we talked about this last night, Rob, is one of the cool parts is, okay, so we've all, and we'll talk about Cleveland here, I think soon, is let's say there's a winning streak here. I think we're probably going to be favored in a couple of games. We should be, let's say we end fairly well. With all this money that we have, no matter what we pick at quarterback, with all this money that we have, free agents are going to be like, hey, I see what's happening in Chicago right now, just like Detroit. It's like, hey, I want to be a part of something special and some of that.
Great
point. And you don't have to overpay to get some people. They want to come. You're going to flip the script. Like honestly, no matter what we pick, this might be the last time the Bears have a top 10 pick in a while.
Yeah.
God, I hope so.
And yeah, me too. I think we all do. Maybe not from a content standpoint, but yes, from my mental health.
You say that though. Say they trade back and they land a couple more first round picks. Depending on the team, you could be loaded. This roster could be competing for a title. And then the following year, I think they saw it with Philadelphia, where they were like in the playoffs and still have like a top 5 pick.
They had Jalen at 9 that they traded with us. Yeah, they got Jalen Carter after just going to a Super Bowl. So
that's all I'm saying is you could be set up if Poles does it correctly and you get a little bit of luck with who you trade with, which that's it's a big factor. You factor in who you trade back with. As far as the Carolina, you look back at it. A lot of teams, a lot of great GMs, they're ahead of everyone else. So is Ryan Poles there?
You're saying like Ryan Poles? What if he continually gets the number 1 pick every year, Dave? That's what you're saying?
It could be, it could just be we're gonna make crazy.
Are you?
That would be insane. I hope we don't get that.
1 pick every year going forward.
Yeah,
if we do that.
That's how it's gonna work.
I think we'll fry. Yeah. Either way,
Yeah,
it's just it's looking good. So what are you
But
saying,
I think
Ficky?
we all agree here. No, it's just that a lot of this conversation has basically been like a round of applause to Ryan Poles. Like, this guy has come in, been a modern GM, build in the trenches, mitigate your risk by hedging, by trading, getting good value, not going over value in free agency. I mean, look what he got TJ Edwards for, top linebacker, letting Roquan go, getting DJ Moore. I think overall why we feel good about the position we're in is because our quarterback isn't just complete doo-doo, right? So that helps because it can be a trade target and it makes the decision hard. And we also have that first overall pick. And so I think we all just feel confident in the team moving forward because of Ryan Poles. So I think that's what I'm most excited about, is because, and we've all said it, whatever happens, King Poles, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I think we're good with that.
Well, Ryan Poles and his team, his staff, like they can draft too. Like I feel like they can draft, they find talent. You see it, this draft class alone, I think is just, you're starting to see some of that talent, especially on the defensive line. Jerron Dexter, I feel like he's kind of flashing more and more. So it's interesting. A lot of draft talk. I'm sure we'll have another episode as the draft nears. We'll get all you guys on. Maybe we can come over to your guys' show too. But I want to move. I guess we have a game this week.
Yeah, we do. But before we move forward, we do have 2 super chats, both from Tito. So let me pull this up. So our man Tito in here with the first one's a $5 super chat. He said, trade down and fill this team with studs. More talent means Fields will flourish. Building a team is way more important than finding the perfect QB. I wouldn't be mad about that. And I think we're on our way with that. So that's good.
We got to get Tito on the pod.
Yeah. I know. We definitely do with all these super chats. Man. And then the second one is $2 super chat here. He said, when's the last time a number 1 overall QB did something? And I think I have the answer to that. That's going to be Andrew Luck in 2012. But you'll be surprised to learn.
Super Bowl.
Oh, Joe Burrow, yeah.
Joey Burrow.
Yep, you're right. Joe Burrow. But then it'd be Luck.
But still,
I think there's probably – oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
No, I said he didn't win it. So there are a lot of people that are going to immediately look at that and say, well, that doesn't count. And it's like the hardest part to me about the Super Bowl is that the method to get there is always changing and it involves a lot of luck. Right. And so I just want to win some dadgum games. Like Fields, rookie quarterback, I'm very confident they can win games. I can rock with either.
Yeah. No, Joe Burrow is definitely a great quarterback. So that'd be the
number 1 overall quarterbacks taken in the last 10 years. So it goes Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff. I guess Jameis Winston went number 1 as well. Is that correct?
Yep.
Lameous, baby. Pre-LASIK.
Andrew Luck, Cam Newton. He went to Super Bowl.
Crab legs, though. Pre-LASIK, crab legs. So.
That's so funny. That's funny. But anyways, I want to shift here because, like I said, I know we've been going for a little while, but we do have a big game. Honestly, I've been talking to my friends, everything. I feel like it's a playoff game. I feel like it's a playoff game. And I'm gonna take it that way. So the Browns are still 3-point favorites. They're at home. It's a interesting game. Justin Fields talked about kind of going back to Cleveland and what it was like, to play in his rookie season. He remember getting sacked a lot. So Rob, first of all, what we do here is we do bold predictions. But first, before we get to that, Rob and Nick, how are you guys feeling heading into this game? 1 to 10, how confident are you that the Bears can kind of pull this one out? I'll start with you, Nick. We'll switch it up. We'll go with Nick.
Yeah. I'm at a 9 because I see the rap sheet of injured guys on IR for Cleveland. I see the rap sheet of guys that are DMPs this week. And I mean, it's starting center, starting other safety, David Njoku. I mean, starting D tackle, starting guard, like they are decimated. And the other part of this too is Justin Fields lost the first game against Detroit this year, won the second one. They lost the first game against Minnesota, won the second one. He lost, the first one to Green Bay, you can, where I think that'll go at the end of the year, but got embarrassed against Cleveland, his first game in the NFL. I think Justin Fields has a little bit of revenge in his blood, in his veins coming through here. So that also leads into my confidence for him and Chicago winning this game. Because, we're rolling, y'all. We've won 3 of 4. Fields has won 3 of his last 4 starts. I know there's that gap in there too. Like we're rolling with Fields. We're rolling as a team, and Cleveland's just going the complete opposite. Their defense, their offense, everything.
Interesting. Hey, Rob.
Except Flacco.
Are you feeling as
Flacco
confident?
300 last year.
So-
That's about the only thing hot.
So Dave, Ficky, you guys have had me on before. If you know me at all, you know that I'm the guy who usually tries to tell everybody, okay, so we should be excited, but like, should we be that excited? No, I'm at like a 9.5. I mean,
That's
I'll
crazy.
even leave
Wow.
bold prediction. If we were gonna go bold prediction, like legitimately
Yeah.
bold, my bold prediction is that the Bears defense outscores the Browns offense. Like, I don't know
Wow.
how this Browns offense is supposed to keep Montez Sweat out of the game. They are starting OT 5. The Bears started a one-armed Darnell Wright for 4 weeks instead of letting Aviante Collins play. It is hard to find. It's hard to find 3 decent tackles in like the NFL, let alone 5 for crying out loud. And you're already starting number 4 on the left side. So
Crazy.
like you're talking about 2 tackles that aren't even the swing guy on most rosters, and those are your starters behind quarterback 2.5, depending on how you want to phrase this.
Yep.
Running back 2, a wide receiver 1 that I think Amari Cooper's good, but think about the wide receiver ones the Bears have faced this year. They've faced Devontae Adams. They've faced like a bunch of guys out there that can play. And so I can't help but look and think that PFF's number 1 corner in Jalen Johnson and a DB room that's coming alive and a Montez Sweat that I don't care what you think he is as a pass rusher, he's going to be a matchup problem for 2 dudes that one guy who's not that heavy, which doesn't match up well against DeMarcus Walker, and one guy that's not that long. And that doesn't match up well with Montez Sweat. And Nick's talked about this on our podcast. They're going to try to chip the piss out of the Bears using their 2 tight end formations. And the Bears are going to line up 6 guys on the line and blitz and create one-on-ones. So this is a huge game for Tremaine Edmonds, for TJ Edwards, Montez Sweat, and the others. And honestly, guys, I have gassed myself up to the point I'm going to be surprised if the Bears don't score a defensive touchdown. I've built it into every score prediction I've done. Because whether that's a sack fumble, like that gets strip sacked and pulled the other way, whether it's a pick 6 on a hurried throw that runs the other way, Jalen's dropped 2 in 3 weeks. So maybe he finally gets that one and we get euphoric. Like, I would argue the funny part about this, Dave, is we have spent the whole week talking about Justin Fields. And I think the defense may make this not a game very quickly.
So it's gonna be like an opposite, so similar to like Fields' rookie start, where the Browns defense kind of okay. I want to kind of interrupt this.
Flacco,
the Raiders Thursday Night Football, they put up 42 points at halftime.
What?
No.
I don't know if y'all seen this yet.
What?
I got a notification. Yeah, Devontae. It is 42-0
Chargers.
against the Chargers. No Herbert,
No.
but man.
Brandon's got to be gone, right?
Oh,
Like,
he's gone.
That's
No,
got
he's
to be
gone.
the Staley.
I think they just fired him. I don't think he's coming back.
Yo, that is
He's staying in the
42
locker room.
points? That's more than
42.
the Raiders have scored all
42.
year. What the?
Aiden
42
O'Connell
points.
has 4 touchdown passes.
Man,
Yeah.
that's
Devontae
okay.
Adams has none of those. Unfortunately, he's on my fantasy team.
He doesn't.
I know.
This is one thing about the NFL I will tell you guys that frustrates me is that if we put a separate fan base's hat on, right, we can start to see how we would be talking ourselves into Zach Wilson because he threw for 300 yards. We would be talking ourselves into Aiden O'Connell because he's hung 4 touchdowns on the Chargers in a half. Like, the hardest part about the NFL is consistency, especially at quarterback. And the worst part is, let's just call it out. It is so easy to buy into your guy. It is so easy to buy.
We bought into Nick Foles. At least I did, for like 5
You
games.
bought into
I was like,
Yes.
bought into
You
Mitch
bought into
for
Mitch
longer
for
than
way too long.
Oh, I did. Absolutely. I thought, I'll be honest. Younger Dave, absolutely. I've learned a lot. I've been burnt, and so for me, it's like that's how I can be kind of critical of Justin a little bit. Even we talked about earlier, I think it was Nick, about some of the throws he missed, or I think it was Rob, all of us. He missed some throws. It wasn't his best game, and it's okay to admit that, but they still won by 15 points. So I'm like, first of all, that's the roster that, Nick, you talked about. There's some players they're developing, these young players. So for me, I think it's just funny to see. You're right. You could buy yourself into it. If we didn't have Justin, if we didn't have all these picks, we would be looking at some of these quarterbacks like, I would send a second or third round and see what we can get, So
Right.
It's fun, but so
Vic, do you
go,
mind?
Rob. Yeah, go ahead.
Vic, I know what you were about to say. You were about to say, "Hey, but this Browns offense is cooking," and you're right.
I wouldn't say that much. I mean, Flacco
No.
did have a 300-yard game, but
They kind of are. The problem is, we saw this with the Pastronaut, didn't we? Like when you're riding too high and you face a decent defense, man, the wheels. Like the NFL is just really unkind. Like you slam into a wall. This isn't a linear decay where you play a little worse against better competition. You like Nick, you've seen it. If you've got the right matchup in football and you exploit it 10 times, you might win a game 70-0. Like
I've done it coaching. I'm like, that guy doesn't want to tackle. We're gonna go at him, and we won.
right.
yeah.
And right now, Ficky, let me ask you this: put your Browns hat on, become Kevin
Do I have
Stefanski.
to?
For this moment, I want you to do this because I'm being serious. Let's get on the whiteboard. What matchup are you excited about coming up on Sunday?
There's none. I mean, the only one would be obviously you're the best player on the Browns, and that's Myles Garrett against anybody, right? So like
offense.
but it's not. It's offense. Oh,
I'd say the Browns have a better punter. Absolutely.
Special teams, but
how do we?
He hates Trenton Gill, by the way.
Yeah, I'm just I'm playing into that.
In offense, like obviously, I'd say your best player on offense is Amari Cooper, but you're going against a very strong secondary, right? So I wouldn't even say
young,
that matchup
athletic
is great anywhere. Yeah, there's no one there where I'm like, okay, I'm sure JJ won't follow, but like Amari Cooper versus JJ, I still feel confident in that. Maybe Amari versus a rookie, but like, there's nothing where you're like, oh, we can exploit this. We've done.
Is Joe Flacco going to have enough time? That's the question.
That's also true. And Njoku would be my next guy to go to, but I think he was a DNP. And then also the Bears have played well against tight ends this year. We saw what they just did to Laporta last game, 26 yards, right? Shut him down. And same with Wright. So there's nothing that I look at it and go, wow, I'm really scared of a matchup, but again, like Nick said, coaching's important too. So who knows what they have in store.
And Nick, remind me, this isn't the Amari Cooper that's got gas, right? He's lost a step, hasn't he?
Well, he has, and he's dealing with the rib thing right now too. He's full participant today. He didn't practice yesterday, so he's dealing with like it's like even their good guys are like Darnell Wright was. They're like, we're like 70%. Meanwhile, you look at us and we got a squad right now. Like everyone's healthy. It's weird. It's like a twilight zone, I feel like right now in terms of like we're not used to having our team healthy and rolling, and it's going right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the luck's in our favor.
So
I will feel rug pulled if the Bears don't not just win, but kind of dominate. And I'll get over it. It's happened a lot. Generally, when I'm highest up the Bears is when the worst game comes. But it's more to say that, like, when I look at this, the other thing that gets me gassed up, because Nick, I was trying to lead you to this, is there's one player that Tyreek Stevenson had his best game against so far this season, and that was Devontae Adams. Because Devontae Adams doesn't beat you with straight speed; he beats you with a blend of physicality, which Tyreek can match, and technique. And Tyreek has the agility and anticipation to break with you on common routes. So if Amari Cooper, because I have not film ratted on Amari Cooper recently, but I imagine he's trying to win in very similar ways. And so if you, the Browns, think, oh, this will be easy, we're just going to line up Amari Cooper on Tyreek Stevenson. Well, the Bears are going to make you beat him 8 times in a row. I don't think you're going to win all 8. And so,
Cooper's a technician now. Like that's where he's evolved to. And also this is for Ficky and Dave and everyone that doesn't listen to us. I think outside of his family, Rob is the highest on Tyreek Stevenson in the world. So just so you know, he's playing better, but Rob has a really high opinion of Tyreek Stevenson. Like let's just say Jalen Johnson's on Amari. How about that? Or they got him bracketed. We don't got to go Tyreek straight up here.
There's to let the offense line up however they want to on the defense. I'm with you. I hope it's Jalen Johnson, but at least right now they're not having Jalen shack anybody. So until they start, I hope, I would prefer if Jalen was just on Amari Cooper. I'm assuming it's going to come down to Amari on Tyreek because everybody's attacked Tyreek. You mentioned this, Dave. Vicky,
everyone.
If you had to guess, where does Tyreek rank in defensive tackles on the Bears this year?
Say it again. Tyreek Stevenson?
Tyreek Stevenson, where does he
Well, he's
rank?
not first because that's TJ. TJ's first.
That's TJ.
I actually have no idea.
I would say seventh, around seventh.
That would be normal.
No, I'm gonna go third.
Third, he's fourth with over double the tackles Jalen Johnson has. He gets thrown at a lot.
Yeah, I know the targets
a lot. A lot.
So you said one of your hot takes, Rob, is the defensive touchdown. One of mine is this has to happen some week. Darnell Mooney's going to catch a touchdown this week, right? Like it's gotta happen here at some point. Like he's going to find him. They're going to be so focused on DJ Moore or whatever. But I think Darnell Mooney's finally going to get a touchdown this week.
Okay,
hope you're right.
Ficky, what's your bold prediction here?
Oh man, bold prediction. Wow.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah. Actually, I'm gonna go multiple interception game. It may not be bold because it seems like we've been picking off everybody.
Not a single player. Are you talking about just as the defense?
I think it might be. I think we might be having another 2 to 3, because of the pressure that's going to be on Flacco. I think
tip balls.
Going to be some tip balls. We've seen a couple interceptions from that, and then forcing some passes where the pressure's closing down, the pocket's closing down.
Okay.
He's just going to make a bad decision.
So
there's no way. I just don't see. There's no way that he goes off for 300 yards again against this defense. I know he did against the 31st ranked passing defense in the Jaguars, right? But this defense has not given up anything close to that, even with the top 5 offense that we saw the past 4 weeks with the Lions twice. So
Jacksonville is missing their best corner too, Ficky. So even with a bad defense, they're missing some guys.
So DJ Moore, we're looking at the injury report. He's really the only one on there. I think there was maybe I can't think of it. Anyways, it was an ankle for DJ Moore. Brisker, yeah, he was out today, but I think he's gonna be fine. I think he was just taking a rest day. But with DJ Moore, he was limited today as far as his ankle. We seen a video with him. I think it was Nicholas Moriano, CHGO Sports. He kind of put it out there where he was fine. He was laughing. He was walking around. For me, my bold prediction, because we're gonna have one more for each of us, but I'm gonna go 300. I think it's gonna be a 300-yard passing game for Justin Fields. I think the defense, Browns, it is great, but it's depleted. I think that the way this defense or the offense is playing for the Bears, I think it's just it's the right timing for everything. So, and also I think it'd just be poetic to be able to his rookie season where he threw for 120 and to be able to throw for 300. So like I said, it may be a lot, but I feel like this could be a game where it's like he really emphasizes, really focused, and wants to prove that, he can at least throw the ball. So for me, I'm going 300 yards for Fields, and we'll go from there. So Fakey, I'll send it back to you for your second final bold prediction.
Yeah. Also, is this sad that that's a bold prediction for Fields? You know what I mean? 300 yards.
I don't think it's bold because look at his running. He's not a normal quarterback in my opinion. So that's why I'm like, I know a lot of people are fixated on 300-yard games, but it's like he almost had 300 total yards last week. Yeah, he was very, very close if he didn't have over 300 total yards. So when you factor in his running, which you see some people see it as like a negative, and that's fair because his passing, he's not as efficient or prolific as maybe Caleb Williams might even be next year, just coming into the league, because he's a different type of quarterback. So for me, I think 300 yards passing is bold because of the way that he runs. Sometimes we saw it last week where he's pinned down on his one, and most quarterbacks are probably sacked there, and it's a safety, and he turns up being about 30-yard run. So I think his legs, there's a component there where I know you could probably like to see him throw the ball, maybe get it to commit on a streak or something like that instead of running or maybe leaving the pocket. And so I think there's pros and cons to both, but I think that the way he plays kind of limits why he doesn't get some 300-yard games as far as passing goes. So, but
yeah, it's also hard to get it when you have 17 screens. But my hot take is that there is that I think Montez Sweat will have 3 sacks. I think I was going Montez. Yeah. I mean, it only makes sense, right?
3 sacks.
3. He has 4 with us so far.
Walder's Twitter account deleted if Montez Sweat has 3 sacks against the Browns.
Yes, sir. I mean, why not, right? Let's flip the script.
Lombardi.
12 sacks. We gave up 12 sacks last time we were there. This is going to be a defensive game, right?
Okay.
Our defense is going to thrive, according to Rob. I kind of agree. So why not? If that's going to be the case, you're going to need some help on that front line. And he's been balling out. He's been playing well. I could easily like if I said 2, right? You guys wouldn't be like, that's not possible.
Yeah.
He had 1.5.
I like
week,
it.
you know. So I think 3 is definitely
right
there. And you know what? Fuck it. Throw in a strip sack too. You know what? You talking about you wanted a defensive touchdown, Rob? There's the strip sack, and we're gonna have someone pick it up. Maybe Javon Dexter picks it up. Big boy running down the field and gets a touchdown.
Montez Sweat blitzes, gets the edge, strip sacks Flacco on a Kyler Gordon blitz. The ball pops to him. He scoops it up. He runs it into the end zone. It's the easiest looking play of the season, and Bears fans go to heaven. Right?
Yeah, there it is.
I mean, we talked about this because they're on their 3rd right tackle right now. It's James Hudson. PFF graded him. He's the worst tackle in the NFL. He's 84th out of like 84th or something like bad.
That's crazy.
Just in case you were excited about the other guy, he's 78th.
Yeah.
So it's tough out there.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that's why when you told me to put on that Browns hat, I was like, yeah, I don't know if I've had enough pain in my life. I don't know if I want to do that. Jeez. Like that's crazy.
Dave, I'll go next. My bold prediction. I like your Fields 300 yards prediction. I'm going to go the other way with it and say, I think the Bears offense is going to give us nearly nothing to talk about in one of the most ho-hum, tapioca pudding, take care of the ball, don't screw this up offenses that we've seen this season. Because I think the Bears defense, look, if the game works out the way I see it working out, and I'm going to be very blunt, listeners, it probably won't. Like, for some reason, after all this talking, I bet one team comes out flat or something like it. But if it works out the way that I think it will, I think the Bears offense is going to score on their scripted drive. I think they're going to take advantage of an early turnover and like kick a field goal or something. And the Browns are going to go into half with nothing to speak for. And the Bears offense is basically going to get their marching orders to do nothing and just like run the ball. Let's not take any extra hits this week. Let's throw the ball when we need to, and let's just get out of the way and let the defense keep working. But maybe that's partially because I think there would be something so funny about everybody right now is searching for a Justin Fields statement game, and I could easily see him delaying it a week. And then it comes against a horrible Arizona defense that will be ripe for an explosive game.
Yeah. And then you got Atlanta.
This is the game he needs to do it though with this defense. I know they got injuries, but
that's what I'm saying.
The hardest defense that he's facing. So yeah,
it would hold a little bit more value, a little bit more impact if he did against like this, even though it's depleted. But all right, Nick, have we gotten to your final bold prediction here?
No, not yet.
I think so.
I'd like yours, Dave, more because I bet the over on Justin Fields' season passing yards, which was 2,750.
You are kidding.
So he needs 235 a game to break that, which is still doable. So
easy.
He's putting you in a bind on 2,750 right now. Oh,
no, before the season I did.
That injury sucks.
Yeah, he would have surpassed that easy.
Not 4,000.
I want to bring this up because I talked about what was your final prediction?
So my final prediction, and this is going to go a little bit the other way from this went from Justin Fields' first game against Cleveland, is I think that like last week they were up to the task with Aiden Hutchinson. I think that Myles Garrett is not going to get a sack on Justin Fields, which I think is out there because he's so good.
Tough.
And they move him around. They try and create matchups, but our line is doing pretty well right now. And I think they're going to focus on him.
That'd be nice.
Not to mention
Bears are winning. If they don't give up a sack, they will win this game. Well, to Myles Garrett, but
to Myles Garrett,
but it's interesting.
Myles is hurt a little bit, but I'll tell you what, that's not going to stop Bears fans from posting highlights of Darnell Wright locking him up. If that's what happens, take every leverage advantage on Twitter that we can. And I mean, anything does this feel to you guys, Ficky, Nick and I have talked about this. Does this feel almost like destiny setting up with that week 18 game against the Packers?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Storybook.
It's going to come down
storybook stuff, man.
NFL script, right?
The only thing that can make it better is if there's a playoff, somehow there's a playoff like berth on the line between Green Bay and Chicago. And that would be a tough one to watch. Last time that happened, I was at it
game. Week 17 cold snow game. I was there for that one where Chris Conti blew that play. Oh my gosh. And then Jay Cutler on the last drive misses Alshon Jeffrey deep to the side. Oh my, yeah. Sorry, PTSD. So I'm almost scared. I'd rather be like, we go into week 18. We know we're in. I know that won't be the case. Or we know we're out so that like I can just, be able to breathe, So yeah, but yeah, I was at that game when the last time was playoff implications. So
man, can you imagine winning that game and then getting into the playoffs, you win a playoff game, and they still trade Fields for like a second-round pick?
Like cannot.
Dave, if you realize what could happen, I know it's a lot of could and a lot of maybe, but if the Bears win out and somehow luck their way into the 6th seed, as of right now, they'd be slated to go to Detroit and then play the rubber match of a 3-game series,
which they should be up 2-0.
Oh, which you would think that they're up 2-0, and all that means to me, because I'm sitting here just a buzz thinking about it. What would anybody say about quarterback or head coach? I don't care how much you hate Matt Eberflus. I don't care what you think of Justin Fields. If they ended on a 7-game win streak, 2 divisional playoff games basically, and
lose
then,
like a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. They drop it to the Eagles or the Cowboys or whatever, and everybody just gets over it. You know what I mean?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you who's scared as shit. If Jared Goff would be, oh my God! Can you imagine
what?
The 2018,
he does not want to play
year
that
where
team.
the 2018 defense just destroyed him, broke him, and now the Bears defense is breaking him again. Essentially, it's like, could you imagine the fear that he'd be like? That'd be too much, man. But
I'm actually happy. I'm actually happy though if we do face them that we're not 2-0, because typically when you're 2-0.
Yeah,
and then you meet in the playoffs, you lose.
Yeah.
So,
dude,
I'd rather have
Lions
that split.
players.
I don't know
they
why
were
that
talking.
is, but
they were talking trash at halftime, heading into the tunnel. I don't know if you caught some of that. Like they were talking to the Bears to the sideline, and they were not. I mean, they were not. They just don't like the Bears, and then obviously how we saw the second half played out, where the Bears, came out, and then that's why you saw some players tweeting after the game about, kind of talking a little bit more trash about Detroit. So these teams don't like each other, but at the same time, all the confidence, all the momentum is in Chicago. Like I would be very, very nervous.
Dude, we should have beat him by 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
facts.
Oh yeah. Even but I want to go my final score prediction before I do it. We talk about 300-yard passers. So Kansas City, how many times do you think Patrick Mahomes this year has thrown for 300 yards? I know he doesn't have receivers, but I just want to know how many think. 2, Rob, 2. Nick has 3. He threw for 4. It's only 4 times he's eclipsed 300 yards. Another one, the high-powered Detroit Lions, Jared Goff. How many times do you think he's thrown for 300 yards?
I'm going to go 5.
5? 4? 3? Yeah, it is. He's thrown. It is 4 times, Jared Goff. Again, the Saints, they have the most, I guess, somehow with 5 300-yard games for a passer. The Commanders have 5. Now the Bears, they have 1. The Panthers have 1. The Raiders have 1. Well, I guess they're going to have 2 now with the way that McConnell is playing. And then the Bears are with 1. And the New York Giants. Now, the highest in the league is 6. That's the Houston Texans and then the 49ers. So you have a bunch of 3, 2s, 4s, and then a couple 6s. Again, it's kind of tough. It's not like they're getting every week, as far as getting 300-yard games. So, again, being at just 1 within Chicago is not great. But, again, Justin was hurt for, 4 games? Yep. And, missed 4 or 5 weeks. So, for me, my final bold prediction, I don't know if this is bold or not, but as far as just running, I think the Bears are going to rush very, very well this game. I like Deontay Foreman, big fan of him, of course. Herbert, still a fan. But I think with Justin Fields running, I think he's going to get around 50, 60, 70 yards rushing as well. But I think that the Bears are just going to run the ball very, very well on Sunday. So I'm going to go 185 total rushing yards. Yeah, I think it's going to be that bad, man.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I think they're going to run the ball, man.
Offensive day.
It's going to be I'm 300 yards from Fields, and I think it might be because of I think the big chunk will probably come from Foreman. I think he's running so well. I think he's due for just a 100-yard game. So for me, you get 100 yards from Foreman, and then you get another 50, 40 from Fields, and then you throw in Herbert, maybe even Roshan Johnson gets some snaps. I just think they're going to run the ball. We all know they can do it. They kind of need to get back to it a little bit, in my opinion, as far as just the dominant running. Because I think last week, how many rushing yards do they have? Like,
not
I'm talking
that
between
much.
the running backs. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's just, I think they're due for just a good as far as just rushing the ball. So, but that's enough for the bold predictions. We're going to get out of here, but we'll do fine.
I want to show one funny comment first. It said, from Vaughn said, yeah, Ficky, you're banned from games from here on out. So the ongoing joke is I go to games and they just play like absolute dog shit. Like every game I've been to, it's some historic loss. Offense looks like garbage, right? And so when I don't go, we win, right?
You better sell your tickets this week, right?
Yeah, no, I'm not going this week. Luckily,
I know.
I used to say if
we wouldn't allow
you
to go.
they might have to ban me and put up a poster say if you see this guy, kick him out. But if it's for the benefit of the team, I'm here for it. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
All right, so we'll start with Rob here. This is game predictions. I think you guys are both, obviously, as far as confidence goes. I think Nick, you're at a 9. Rob, you're at 9.5. So give me your final score prediction for this matchup.
So I wussed out last night because when my heart says offense scores 17, defense scores 7, and it's a 24-6 beat down. The Browns do like half drives, but other than that, it is like the game that I'm envisioning is borderline boring because the Bears take care of business. And I mean, granted, there's more to the story. Like, I think this has an opportunity, boys, to be a peak game and actually make the other two games, like not just the 3 remaining, obviously, but the next 2 harder, because I could see this Bears team like crest the hill right here, start to feel themselves a little bit and need to maintain that like mental edge, right? But this game, they're still an underdog. This game, nobody believes them. And I think that works to their advantage. Nick, I'm going to roll back the pity touchdown that I offered up as an attempt to be honest last night. I'm just going to go with where my heart's at, and that's 24-6.
He changed it on our pod, and then I saw him post this. I'm like, hey, what's this, man? You can't go changing your prediction. So then he'll be like, oh, well, that one's right. That one's wrong,
Oh,
he's trying to cover all his bases, so if people come back, he's like, "No, I said this. This is what
I said
84 predictions over here."
I'm not even mad.
We'll take it though. 24-6. Right. I'm not mad about that. I'm not mad.
Nick, give us your score prediction, man. How are you feeling?
I'm gonna stay with the one that I had. I'm gonna give you guys a little reasoning here. So I know people are pretty scared of the Browns defense because they've been pretty elite, but they were elite weeks 1 through 6. So just some stats. I think this is kind of fun stuff. Weeks 1 through 6, they allowed an average of 200 yards per game. Weeks 7 through 14, they've averaged 302. That's a huge difference. In weeks 1 through 6, they allowed 15.4 points per game. Weeks 7 through 14, it's been 24.4. And also between this weeks 7 to 14 was that one time they played Arizona when they started Clayton Tune, who was trash, and they had like 58 total yards. So like really it would balloon to more than that. So my prediction is going to be 28-9 Chicago, and it could be better than that. I just think when they're averaging 24 points and we're an above average offense, you just the odds are in our favor to go out over that.
The math. That's not bad.
All right, Ficky. I like that one. I like both of these predictions, honestly.
What's crazy?
I'll be fine with both.
Oh, absolutely. It's a win. We talk about this all the time. It's so hard to get a win in the NFL. And then also add on to that, it's so hard to get a win in the NFL if you are the Chicago Bears franchise. So any way they get it, I am ecstatic. Okay. Listen, we won 3 games last year and we've only won. How many we won this year? I can't remember. We had like 5 or something. So yeah, 8 wins in 2 years. Yeah, these are hard to come by. So my initial one before you guys hopped on the pod, I felt very confident about this. I was like 24-20, but after listening to your brilliant minds, I am like, do they score points at all? You know what I mean? So I think I am more on the 24-10 route.
Oh, wow.
And really it's like 24-3 most of the game, or like, 17-3, whatever. We score 24-3 and they just score, the whatever, who cares. Right. So a dominant performance, maybe not as high scoring as what we would expect, which we probably didn't anyways. The defense is pretty decent, but the defense really shows up. And hopefully it's just like one of those games where maybe we do get 180 yards rushing and there's no turnovers. That's what I want. Like, just offense does their job. Like Rob said, you go in, do your thing. No one really talks about it, and we move on to next week.
Well, speaking of Fields, I don't think Fields has thrown a pick since he's come back.
Yeah,
3 straight games.
Now
First
you
time in
had
his
to go
career.
and say it. Now you had to go and say it.
No, we'll cut it. We'll cut it.
This is live, Ficky.
Yeah, I know.
No, I think there's a way you can still cut it somehow.
Yeah, we'll
go through the
Don't
YouTube
worry.
editor, but
Yeah, but he has been clean. His only issues has really been fumbles, right?
first time in his career
Oh.
too. 3 straight games of no interceptions, so he has not thrown that. It's impressive. So I feel like the Browns are going to score a little bit. I don't know why. I think it's just because the modern day NFL, they're going to get some points. So I'm going to go 27-17 is what I'm leaning towards, which I think would be a great game. I'd love to see him get to 30. I'm not going to predict that. Yeah, I've predicted some 30-point games in the past, and they have not come to fruition. So until that happens, I'm just going to kind of stay under the 30-point marker. But I think 27-17, I think this is the one that you have to – if they win this one, I think they have a really good shot at least to go into that week 17 or week 18 against the Packers and Lambeau, where you could – because I think Cardinals and Atlanta, that should be – if you can beat these guys, you should definitely take care of those two teams at least.
You're at home. You're at home in Soldier Field for those 2 games against warm weather teams in December. Yeah. Like that's
gonna be cold, very, very cold.
And one of them has Desmond Ridder, so you should win. You know what I mean? So,
he's so bad, man. He's so bad.
So here's a question for y'all, because how basically me and Dave since Fields came back, right? And we can end on this one, but since they came back, we've been basically saying, hey, he has a certain amount of games left, right? What was it, 6, 7? And he had to have a certain amount of them checked off, like checking the box, right? I said he need to have like 5 of them, and 2 of them, the other 2 just need to be like, it doesn't matter. They weren't bad. And then Dave said he need to have 6 of them. So far, I've said he's checked off all of them. So far, Dave said he's checked off 3 out of the 4, and the other one is just like a, kind of incomplete. So my question is for you, because we all kind of agree that maybe the offense doesn't have to carry this game. Let's say, it comes to fruition where the defense carries the game. The offense is very run focused. Fields has 180, 200 passing yards, no turnovers, maybe a touchdown or 2. Does that check the box for you, being like, that is a good Fields game? Or like, if you're Ryan Poles, do you look at that and say, yes, I want it? This is pushing the needle to keep him. Or do you need to see a big kind of really high scoring where he's making big plays, running, passing, things like that?
To me, I think that's what happened a little bit of last week, because you're up, and I knew there were some guys that were open that he could have thrown down the field to, but he's like, I'll just check this down because I don't think we need to take the chances. I think that could have been some of this being a little bit more conservative. So I think that if he gets 250 total yards again, and maybe 1 sack allowed and no turnovers, that's still a big win, I think. And it's not like, I know it's a little bit more game managery but we see with Justin Herbert throwing for 300 yards and getting all these stats and not winning games doesn't matter. So you have to fit your skill set into what the team needs and to win football games, because in the end, this is one of my favorite quotes from Justin Fields. They were asking about hey, so you worried about how you're going to play for your contract? This is preseason. He says, I'm not worried about money. I'm worried about wins. That's why I like him so much. As long as he understands what they need to do to win, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, echoing. I think it's okay, Ficky, for us to be able to say that depending on what happens, this could easily go down as a no grade or a very small check, right? I don't think that this is going to be the game where the team basically looks at Fields and says, if you don't make a play, we're going to lose. And then he makes a play and they win. Could become that. That's very possible, right? And I'll be honest, I always try to evaluate the quarterback based on the plays that were called and the options that were given to him, right? What did the defense show us? If we get a touchdown and it pops open and we should have seen it and we didn't throw it, I'm going to be bummed, right? Because I imagine that the quarterback room would be bummed. I try to watch as much JT O'Sullivan, Tim Jenkins, Chase Daniel, all these guys to get a sense for what quarterbacks are looking at. And if read number 1 is open and we pass on it to be conservative, the quarterback's coach does not like it, even if the result ends up well. That said, guys, I mean, I think this could easily become a game where the Bears start going run, run, pass, run, or like outside pitch, inside run, screen pass, like a bunch of stuff that does not matter. Like, it's one thing to talk about passing up the options deep downfield. Nick, I could see them just not bothering to challenge by the end of the game, because if they're up 2 scores and they feel like their defense is winning, Matt Eberflus may park the bus, to use like FIFA terminology, right?
Yeah.
And so if that happens, Vic, I just don't think it makes a difference, right? Like, if you were thumbs up on Justin Fields, stay thumbs up. If you're thumbs down on Justin Fields, stay thumbs down. When the Chiefs are winning by 2 scores, they don't always push for a third. It depends on the game, and that it all depends on the flow, right?
Well, I agree with you. I want to win, so I don't care what, you know what I mean? I know the stats are important at the end of the day, like, especially from a fan base, to kind of gauge where you're at with a person on their skill, you know? But at the end of the day, I want to win. So, and I'm sure Fields does too, and he talks about it. But so I agree with you. That's why basically how I view it going out. Like, I know I said Poles has already made his decision, right? But if he hasn't, right, basically I just need to see, you just need to not be the reason we lost.
Yep.
Right? You don't always have to be the reason we won, but you can't be the reason we lost. And I think so far this year, and maybe I'm wrong, I haven't seen a game where I was like, oh, Fields, you are literally the reason we lost. So, or like at least solely where I look at you and I'm like, yeah, you had like 3-4 turnovers, you know what I mean? Or you're missing all these open wide receivers, things like that, where I'm just like, yeah, you're garbage. We have to move on. So I agree basically.
Absolutely. I think it was a good conversation. We're going to have plenty of those. Before we let Rob and Nick go here, first of all, you can check out Robert Schmitz on Twitter. It's Robert K. Schmitz. Is that right? And then Nick, I think your Twitter, I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to cheat _ Nick Whalen. We talked about earlier in the show. So _ then your first last name. And then you guys just tell us a little bit about your podcast, how many times like it airs, how long you've been doing it. Just so I know you guys, we kind of probably have some crossover viewers and stuff. So like I said, I love the pod. I'm glad you're doing it. I hope you keep doing it, especially during the off season. But just tell us about it, where we can find you, and how it's been going.
Nick, you want to do it? Or you want me to do it?
Yeah, I'll go. I think sometimes your audio isn't as good. I've seen some of the comments. So, so we do a post game. We've been trying to do that live, just like this. I think it's nice to kind of get some of the viewers in. So if people like some of that live content, we do some of that on. So that'll be Sunday, or Monday, or Thursday, or Saturday, or whenever the Bears play. We are staying up and doing that pod that night. So that will happen. And then we have our preview show will be Wednesdays. We record that and it comes out Thursday morning normally. And that one, we're incorporating some Q&A into that. And we do a lot of numbers, a lot of film based on what we saw from all 22 from the past game, and then what we're seeing from the opponent and what we expect the Bears from the next game. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, especially, from everything we've talked about, we're going to be able to talk about the draft, free agency on these pods. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. So I listen to you guys too. Like, I don't think I can get enough Bears pods, honestly, this year and then this offseason. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of topics to talk about, which is great. Again, King Polls, I just got to keep saying it. We have a lot. The future looks, for a team that started 0-4, there shouldn't be this many positive things to talk about, right? For a team that won 3 games last year, there shouldn't be this much positive things to talk about.
Like Ficky, when he talks, I think I go into like a trance. Every time he talks, I'm like, man, I just believe in this guy more. Like I'm like, I want to like just have a beer with this guy. Like, he just seems awesome. Like he's like, yeah, that plan's gonna work. Like, yeah, and he's just always honest. And he was like, yep, this is why we did this. I'm like, that's my guy, because we haven't had that. We've had because Flus isn't as good in press conferences either, and Pace never showed up, but like Poles is accountable. I'm like, dude, he's gonna like lead us to like the promised land.
Him and Warren give me both of the, like, we mean business, and we will, like, the accountability is huge. Like, oh, Chase Claypool didn't work. Yep, didn't work out. He's gone. Moving on to the next. You know what I mean? And then So at no, they just instill a lot of confidence in this franchise, which I have not seen from past people. Flus, he's got some work to do. From the head coaching standpoint, confidence in coordinating a defense has been great, but yeah, very, very spot on. Hopefully he continues, because then we'll have plenty more of these great conversations.
Yep.
But we'll find out. Chicago Bears, they could all go to hell and it burns them. So we'll find it. We'll find out.
Absolutely. Well, hey guys, it's been over an hour plus. So first of all, Rob, thank you for taking the time to hop on with us. First of all, I know you just got a car. Congratulations on that. It's stressful, but we appreciate you taking the time, man. You've been driving. You're a trooper. We really appreciate it. Same with you, Nick, man.
My other car broke. Thank you, though.
Oh, no. Oh,
Go fund me started for Rob. Here we go.
Rob,
yeah.
The car was out of necessity. Let's put it that way. We're all right.
I feel for you too. As a man who used to sell cars, there's nothing worse than when your car breaks down and then you realize the next thing you have to do is go to a car dealership.
Yes.
The last place on earth you ever want to be. I wouldn't send my enemies to a car dealership. Like, so I feel for you. I
get my oil changes done at the same dealership because you get like free oil changes, and I still dislike going there so very much, man. Like, and it's free, and I'm still just like, oh, I just hate it. I don't know what it is about car. Nothing against the people who have to work there, because everyone has to make a living. I get it, but I agree, Ficky, man. It's terrible. So shout out to Rob tonight. Shout out to Rob. And Nick, thank you, man, for first of all, being on time. Shout out to Rob right there. No, I'm just kidding. No, seriously, both of you guys are just amazing. First of all, great content creators. One of the staples in Bears Twitter, which can be kind of toxic at times, but you guys are, far and behind some of the best follows on Twitter. So again, check them out on all socials. I know there's a ton of great Bears podcasts, but I'm telling you, their podcast is amazing. One of my favorite parts about it is the film, but also the analytical side. We try to get, nitty gritty in those, but these guys just do it just at a different level. So, absolutely. So first of all, thank you guys again. If you guys ever need anything, let us know. And then hopefully our predictions come to fruition. So we'll have to wait and see.
Thanks for having us, man. I appreciate it. It's good getting to know you guys off air too. So
yeah, absolutely.
We're not as bad as what we seem on Twitter. I promise. Well, maybe I am. Dave's a little bit better, but
yeah.
Thank you,
guys.
Man.
Thanks, man. Absolutely. You guys have a great night. Fick, let's see here. So Fick, I think we'll go ahead and finish it up here. I don't think we have any other questions. Fick, did you have any questions from the chat that we wanted to kind of get to beforehand?
Let's check here real quick.
Okay.
Let's see if there was some. I thought there was one. I don't think I started though. No, we do have some great comments in here though. Tareen said, "Awesome show, guys. Really enjoyed it." Yeah. No, for real, it was great having them on. Please give them a follow. Go watch their podcast. Just because you watch us doesn't mean you can't watch them. There's a bunch of great people out there, and those two are definitely that analytical.
I watch about 2 or 3 Bears podcasts, so.
Absolutely. We got to watch something too. You know what I mean? We learned stuff from this, but absolutely. So definitely go check them out. I don't think we see any questions in here, which is totally fine.
Okay. Which is fine. It's been a long show. We've answered probably a ton of them already. We're going to be back Sunday to recap the game right after, like we always are. If you guys are new here, if you enjoy the pod, go ahead and leave a like if you can. It really does help. It's a great way to support the pod. Subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Having Nick and Rob over here. We've had Rob on before. It's good to have Nick on. Again, their podcast can't say more good things about it, but appreciate them hopping on over an hour and a half talking Bears football with us. I mean, that's awesome. So
that's a dream right there. That's what we do.
We'll be back Sunday. Again, the show is presented by Sports Mockery. So if you are anything Chicago sports related, go check it out. Again, I also write multiple articles, a couple articles a week. Check it out if you can. Follow Ficky on all socials. It's Ficky Baby. Also, if you want to keep up to date on all giveaways, pod stuff, check out the pod on Twitter as well, or X, whatever we're calling it now, BFR_pod. Give it a follow. And then, of course, you check.
Follow on also on TikTok and Instagram as well. We post a lot of shorts. I know we post them on Twitter as well, but we post a bunch of other content on Instagram, on TikTok and all that stuff. We're everywhere. So
BFR_pod on all socials. Put it that way. And then, of course, if you want, you can follow me on Dave_BFR, all socials as well. Again, it's a fun season. It's kind of turning out. We'll see if we can go on a run here. I'm excited to just kind of recap this thing on Sunday. But again, shout out to the guys for hopping on. We'll have another crossover pod probably before the draft, just because those guys are just so good at what they do as far as just breaking stuff down, breaking tape down. But it's going to be a fun off season. I can't forget our Apple, Spotify listeners as well. If you're listening there, first of all, thank you. And then also if you want to rate the pod, whatever you want to do. But the love has been real. We're almost at 3,000 subscribers. We're getting there. So if you can help us out, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and hit the sub button. If not, we just appreciate being here. So tell a friend.
Absolutely.
We'll be back Sunday right after the game. Ficky, anything else, man?
Now let's get this dub, bro. Let's do it. Let's get it.
Hey, let's go on a run here. But again, thank you guys again, and we'll be back. We'll be back soon. So,
peace.